Look, I want you to think about something for a second. Last week, you probably ordered food delivery at least twice, maybe 3 times. You clicked a button, paid $47 for $30 worth of food, and told yourself, I'm just too busy to cook tonight. And here's the thing, I'm not judging you. I'm really not, because I used to do the exact same thing. But what if I told you that those 2 delivery orders per week are costing you approximately $312,000 over your lifetime? Yeah, you heard that right, $312,000. That DoorDash order, that's not dinner, that's a beach house. My name is Elon Musk, and I spend way too much time thinking about the invisible ways we're all sabotaging our financial futures without even realizing it. If you're someone who feels like you make decent money but can never seem to get ahead, who looks at your bank account and wonders where all your income actually goes, or who knows you should be saving more but somehow every month ends up the same, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today we're going to talk about something that almost nobody discusses in personal finance. We focus so much on the big purchases, the cars, the houses, the college tuition, that we completely miss the real wealth killer, convenience. Here's what most people don't realize. We're living through the most convenient moment in human history. You can have almost anything delivered to your door within hours. You can stream unlimited entertainment for less than the cost of a single movie ticket in 1995. You can get a ride anywhere without ever owning a car. And all of these services are designed, I mean carefully, psychologically designed, to feel cheap. A study from the Federal Reserve in 2023 found that the average American household now spends $7,400 per year on what they categorize as convenient services. That includes food delivery, subscription services, and premium shipping. $7,400 per year. And that number has increased by 340% since 2015. But here's where it gets really interesting. When researchers asked people to estimate how much they spend on these services, the average guess was $2,100. People are off by more than $5,000. We're spending 250% more than we think we are on convenience. Why? Because convenience costs don't feel like real spending. When you buy a car, you feel it. That's a decision. You research it, you negotiate, you sign papers. But when you tap a button and food shows up 30 minutes later, that doesn't feel like a financial decision. It feels like nothing. It's frictionless. And that's exactly the problem. Let me show you what this actually looks like with real numbers. And I want you to really pay attention here, because this is where most financial education completely fails people. Everyone shows you the compound interest calculator and says, save early, but nobody shows you the compound cost of convenience. Let's start with food delivery. The average delivery order in the US is now $38.67, according to data from in 2024. You're paying about 30% more than the menu price once you factor in delivery fees, service fees, and tips. So that $30 meal becomes $39. Now let's say you order delivery twice a week. That's reasonable, right? You're busy, you work hard. Twice a week feels totally justified. That's $78 per week, $4,056 per year. But if you had picked up that food yourself, or better yet, made something at home for $12 per meal, you'd spend $1,248 per year instead. That's a difference of $2,808 annually. Now you might be thinking, okay, $3,000. That's not nothing, but it's not going to change my life either. And that's where you'd be wrong. If you took that $2,808 and invested it every single year in a basic index fund, earning the historical average return of 10% annually, do you know what you'd have after 30 years? $492,325. $500,000 from skipping the delivery fees. But wait, we're not done, because food delivery is just one convenience service. Let's talk about subscriptions. The average American now has 6.7 active subscriptions, according to a 2024 study by C+R Research. These include streaming services, music, cloud storage, meal kits, fitness apps, premium versions of free apps, the list goes on. The average monthly cost, $91. Now here's the thing about subscriptions. Companies have figured out something really brilliant from a business perspective, but really dangerous from a consumer perspective. They've figured out that $9.99 per month doesn't trigger the same pain response in your brain as $120 per year, even though it's the exact same amount of money. There's actually a term for this in behavioral economics. It's called payment decoupling. When you separate the payment from the consumption, when you pay monthly for something you use daily, your brain stops associating the cost with the value. That Netflix subscription, you signed up for it 3 years ago. You probably don't even remember when they raised the price twice since then. So you're spending $91 per month, which is $1,092 per year on subscriptions. But let's be honest, you're probably not actively using all of them. Research shows that people actively use about 3.4 of their 6.7 subscriptions. The rest, they're just there, auto-renewing, forever. Let's say you cut your subscriptions in half. That's $546 per year back in your pocket. Invested over 30 years at 10% annual returns, that's another $95,815. We're now at almost $600,000, and we've only talked about food delivery and subscriptions. Here's where it gets really uncomfortable. Let's talk about, look, I get it, and changed everything. You don't have to worry about parking, you can have a drink without driving, and you can work or scroll during your commute. It feels like a no-brainer. But according to data from the average user spends $214 per month on and combined. That's $2,568 per year. Now I know what you're thinking, but I live in a city. Owning a car would cost way more than that, and you might be right. But for most people you're not choosing between and car ownership. You're choosing between and public transportation, walking, or biking. Let's do some real math here. A monthly transit pass in most major U.S. cities costs between $70 and $127. Let's say $100 for easy math. That's $1,200 per year. The difference, $1,368 per year. Over 30 years invested, $240,179. But here's what most people don't realize. The convenience of isn't just costing you money directly. It's also costing you the side benefits you get from the less convenient option. When you take public transit or bike, you're getting free exercise. You're reducing your carbon footprint. You're often getting thinking time or reading time. That gives you convenience, but it takes away everything else. This is where it gets really interesting, because we're not just talking about math here. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we think about time, effort, and value. There's a concept in psychology called learned helplessness. It's when you become so accustomed to having problems solved for you that you lose the ability to solve them yourself. And I think we're seeing a version of this with convenience culture. We've become so used to outsourcing every minor inconvenience that we've forgotten we're capable of handling these things ourselves. Cooking feels hard because we're out of practice. Walking 10 blocks feels impossible because we're used to door-to-door service. Waiting until we get home to watch a show feels intolerable because we've trained ourselves to expect instant access to everything. Dr. Wendy Wood, a psychology professor at USC, has done extensive research on habit formation. Her work shows that convenience is actually habit forming in the same way that addictive substances are. Every time you choose the convenient option, you're making it harder to choose the inconvenient option next time. You're literally rewiring your brain to prioritize immediate gratification over delayed rewards. And companies know this, they're counting on it. The entire business model of convenience services is built on the assumption that once you start using them, you won't stop, because going back to the old way will feel like deprivation. Let's add this all up, and I want you to really sit with these numbers for a second. Food delivery, $2,808 per year. Subscriptions, $546 per year. $1,368 per year. That's $4,722 per year in convenience costs that are totally invisible to most people. You don't feel like you're spending this money because it happens in small increments through apps automatically deducted. If you invested that $4,722 per year for 30 years at 10% annual returns, you would have $828,319. That's not a typo, $828,000. That's more than most people have saved for retirement. That's more than the median home price in America. That's generational wealth just sitting there in the form of convenience fees. Now I can hear some of you already, but Elon, my time is valuable. If I'm making $75 an hour at my job, why would I spend an hour cooking to save $20 on delivery fees? That's a bad trade. And look, I get it, that math makes sense on the surface, but there are 3 massive problems with this logic. First, you're not making $75 an hour when you're at home at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. That's not billable time. You can't convert your dinner cooking time into work earnings unless you're actually going to work more hours instead of cooking, and most people aren't. Second, this logic assumes that convenience and time savings are the only values that matter. But what about health? What about skill building? What about the satisfaction of creating something? When you order delivery, you're not just outsourcing cooking, you're outsourcing a basic life skill that humans have practiced for thousands of years. And third, and this is crucial, you're assuming that your future self will remain in the same financial position. But here's the thing about building wealth. It requires living below your means now so you can live above your means later. If you constantly spend up to your income level because your time is valuable, you're guaranteeing that you'll never escape the need to work for money. The goal isn't to work more efficiently within the system. The goal is to build enough wealth to eventually escape the system entirely. Okay, so what do we actually do about this? Because I'm not here to just make you feel bad about your DoorDash habit. I want to give you actionable steps. Step 1, track everything for 1 month. I mean everything. Every delivery order, every subscription charge, use an app like Mint or YNAB or just a simple spreadsheet. You cannot fix what you cannot see. Step 2, do the lifetime calculation for each convenience category. Take your monthly spending, multiply it by 12 to get your annual cost, then use a compound interest calculator to see what that money would be worth in 30 years at 10% returns. I promise you, seeing your subscription represented as $52,000 in retirement money will change your perspective. Step 3, start with the subscriptions. This is the easiest place to win. Cancel everything you don't actively use weekly, and I mean actively, not I might watch that show someday. If you haven't used it in the last 7 days, it's gone. You can always resubscribe later if you really miss it. Step 4, create friction for convenience spending. Delete the delivery apps from your phone, seriously. If you want to order delivery, you have to re-download the app, log in, and place the order. That extra friction is often enough to make you reconsider. It sounds silly, but it works. Step 5, build the alternative habits. Meal prep on Sundays. Plan your transit routes in advance. Download shows before trips so you're not constantly streaming. The inconvenient options only feel inconvenient because you're out of practice. Give it 2 weeks and they'll feel normal again. Step 6, automate your savings. Take whatever amount you were spending on convenience and set up an automatic transfer to an investment account on the same day you used to order delivery or the same day subscriptions charge. Make the money disappear before you can spend it on convenience. But here's what I really want you to understand. This isn't actually about the money. I mean, yes, $828,000 is a lot of money. That's life-changing money. But the deeper issue is what convenience culture is doing to us as humans. We're becoming passive consumers of our own lives. We're outsourcing more and more of the basic skills and activities that used to give life texture and meaning. We're training ourselves to be uncomfortable with any form of delay or difficulty. And the cost of that goes way beyond your bank account. When you can't cook a meal without ordering delivery, you've lost autonomy. When you can't handle 30 minutes on public transit without getting anxious, you've lost resilience. When you can't wait until you get home to watch a show, you've lost patience. These are not small things. These are the fundamental capabilities that used to define adulthood. The convenience economy is selling you a very specific vision of the good life, one where every problem is instantly solved, every need immediately met, every desire fulfilled without delay. But that's not actually the good life. That's dependence. That's fragility. That's a life where you need constant inputs from external services just to function. Real wealth, the kind that lasts, the kind that matters, isn't about having enough money to afford every convenience. It's about having enough capability that you don't need most of them in the first place. Look, I'm not saying you can never order delivery again. I'm not saying you have to cancel Netflix and walk everywhere in the rain while eating plain rice and beans. That's not realistic, and more importantly, that's not the point. The point is awareness. The point is intentionality. The point is understanding the true cost of convenience, not just in dollars, but in capability, in health, in time, in future options. Every time you click that button, you're making a choice. You're choosing between 2 different futures. In one future, you have convenience today and dependency tomorrow. In the other future, you have effort today and freedom tomorrow. And here's the thing that nobody tells you. The effort gets easier, but the dependency gets harder. The first few times you cook instead of ordering delivery, it feels like a sacrifice. But after a month, it feels normal. After 6 months, it feels good. After a year, you can't imagine going back to spending $40 on lukewarm pad thai. Meanwhile, the dependency only gets worse. The more you rely on convenience, the more you need it. The less capable you become, the less capable you feel, and the less capable you want to be. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one convenience category, just one, and eliminate it for 30 days. Track how much money you save. Notice how it feels. See if your life actually gets worse, or if maybe, just maybe, it gets a little bit better. And if this video helped you see convenience differently, if you're thinking about those numbers differently now, if you're maybe, possibly considering canceling a subscription or 2, hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment and tell me which convenience you're going to cut first. Because the future cost of today's convenience, it's higher than you think, but the future benefit of today's effort, that's higher than you can possibly imagine. Let's choose the harder path. Let's choose the path that actually leads somewhere worth going. I'll see you in the next one.